Ladies and gentlemen, welcome live to the arena. AJ, known for power and precision, takes the center. Paul looks sharp, quick on his feet. AJ steps in. Paul counters. AJ fires back. Big moment. Paul stumbles and goes down. Referee checks in. The crowd is exploding. AJ is done.
Yo, I don't even know how to start this video properly. Because whatever you thought influencer boxing was before tonight, whatever mental picture you had in your head of Jake Paul fights, celebrity crossover bouts, YouTube boxing, all of that, it officially changed forever. Like, I'm not exaggerating when I say this fight just snapped the entire boxing world in half. Jake Paul, Anthony Joshua, on Netflix in 2025, and it actually happened. And now the entire internet is sitting there asking the same question: what did we just witness? Because this wasn't just a fight. This wasn't even just a spectacle. This was the most insane collision of worlds boxing has ever seen. Traditional heavyweight boxing versus the influencer era. Olympic pedigree versus viral confidence. Decades of championship experience versus pure belief and marketing genius. And no matter which side you're on, you cannot deny this. The shockwaves from this fight are going to be felt for years. Before we even talk about the knockout, before we talk about the aftermath, we need to rewind, because the real madness started long before the bell ever rang. The moment this fight was announced, boxing purists lost their minds. Anthony Joshua, a former two-time unified heavyweight champion, Olympic gold medalist, a guy who has fought Klitschko, Usyk, White, Ruiz, Dubois, stepping into the ring with Jake Paul. People said it was disrespectful. People said it was dangerous. People said it was the end of boxing credibility. And then you had the other side saying, this is the biggest fight boxing has ever seen. And honestly, both sides were kind of right, because the build-up to this fight was unreal. Press conferences looked like movie premieres. Face-offs felt surreal. Jake Paul sitting across from a 6'6" heavyweight monster like he belonged there. Anthony Joshua, calm, composed, almost smiling, like a man who knew something everyone else didn't. And that's what made this terrifying. AJ never treated this like a joke. He never laughed it off, never brushed it aside, never acted like he was above it. If anything, he looked insulted in a quiet way. Like, all right, you want this smoke? You're really asking for it. Meanwhile, Jake Paul leaned all the way in, calling AJ stiff, saying heavyweight's gas, claiming he saw holes, promising a knockout that would break the internet. And the scary part? Jake believed it. Not fake confidence, not promotional confidence, real belief. The kind that only comes from a guy who has been doubted his entire life and keeps proving people wrong. That's why the predictions before the fight were absolutely wild. You had fighters like Joe Rogan flat out saying this was dangerous, saying AJ hits different, saying one punch could end Jake's career, not just the fight. You had boxers like Tony Bellew saying, if this is real, it's madness. You had UFC fighters laughing it off, saying if AJ doesn't knock him out early, something's wrong. But then, you had a few voices saying, don't underestimate Jake. And that's what made this so uncomfortable. Because we've seen it before. We saw people laugh when he fought Woodley. We saw people laugh when he fought Silva. We saw people say Tommy Fury would expose him easily. And yet, every single time, Jake showed up in better shape, sharper, smarter. So going into fight night, the tension was insane. This wasn't curiosity anymore. This was fear mixed with excitement. And then fight night arrives. Netflix presentation was ridiculous. This felt bigger than a normal PPV. It felt global. Celebrities everywhere. Fighters everywhere. Athletes everywhere. The arena buzzing like something historic was about to happen. Jake Paul walks out first. And whatever you think of him, you cannot deny the presence. He looked calm, focused, locked in. No clowning, no overacting, just business. Like a guy who knew he was about to change his life one way or another. Then Anthony Joshua walks out, and that's when the vibe shifted. Because AJ didn't look nervous. He didn't look hyped. He looked cold. Like someone walking to work. Like someone who had done this on the biggest stages of boxing and knew exactly how this story was supposed to end. When they stood face to face in the ring, it was honestly uncomfortable. The size difference, the structure, the aura. Jake looked big, but AJ looked like a different species, and the bell rings. Now here's the thing. the fight itself almost didn't matter in the way people think, because the real shock wasn't just the knockout, it was the reality check. From the opening exchanges, you could see the difference. Jake came out energetic, trying to establish rhythm, trying to make AJ respect him early, flicking the jab, moving laterally, trying to be awkward. And AJ? He didn't rush, he didn't chase, he didn't swing wild, he didn't panic. He just watched, measured distance, timed reactions, let Jake show him everything. And that's when you realize something terrifying. Anthony Joshua wasn't fighting like a man worried about losing. He was fighting like a man setting a trap. And the moment it happened, everyone felt it. One exchange, one opening, one clean connection, and that was it. The sound alone was sickening. That wasn't influencer boxing power. That wasn't cruiserweight power. That was heavyweight reality. Jake went down, and the arena froze. Not in celebration, not in laughter, in shock. Because suddenly it wasn't a meme anymore. Suddenly it wasn't hype. Suddenly it wasn't talk. It was real. The stoppage came quickly. Referee didn't hesitate. Medical team rushed in. AJ walked away like a man who had done exactly what everyone warned would happen. And just like that, the fight was over. And now the conversation exploded. Because immediately, the internet split into two reactions. One side saying, "We told you so." The other side saying, "Respect to Jake." And both can exist at the same time. Because here's the truth no one wants to admit. Jake Paul did something no influencer has ever done. He stepped into a professional boxing ring with a former heavyweight champion in his prime era lineage. Not retired, not washed, not an exhibition. A real fight. And that matters. But it also showed the ceiling. This fight answered every question at once. Yes, Jake is a real boxer. Yes, Jake belongs in the sport. But no, belief doesn't bend physics. Heavyweight boxing is different. There are levels that confidence cannot shortcut. And Anthony Joshua reminded everyone of that. For AJ, this wasn't just a win. This was a statement. A reminder that despite losses, despite criticism, despite internet narratives, heavyweight power doesn't fade. For Jake, this was a crossroads moment. Because now the storyline changes. Does he continue? Does he drop back down? Does he pivot into exhibitions? Does he chase redemption? And bigger than both of them, this fight might have been the peak of influencer boxing. Not because it failed, but because it reached its final form. You cannot go bigger than this. You cannot go higher than heavyweight royalty. You cannot escalate further without crossing into danger. The moment the final shot landed, the internet didn't just react, it detonated. Within seconds, clips were everywhere. Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, group chats, sports shows, even people who don't watch boxing suddenly had opinions. You had some fans screaming that this was inevitable, others calling it reckless, and a whole lot of people just sitting there stunned, replaying the clip like, wait, did that really just happen? Because whether you loved Jake Paul or hated him, nobody can deny this felt like a moment. Not just a fight, not just a knockout. This felt like a line being drawn between eras. And that's where this story really begins. Because long before that bell rang, this fight was already being called the most insane crossover in combat sports history. A YouTuber turned prize fighter stepping in with a former unified heavyweight champion, Olympic gold medalist, and one of the most dangerous punchers of the last decade, on Netflix, in front of the entire world. People weren't just watching to see who would win. They were watching to see what boxing had become. In the days leading up to the fight, the predictions were chaos. You had boxing purists saying this should never have been sanctioned. You had casual fans saying Jake had nothing to lose. You had ex-fighters saying one clean shot from AJ could end it instantly. And you had Jake himself, calm, confident, talking like this was just another step in the plan. That's what made it terrifying. Because Jake Paul didn't sound like a guy chasing clout anymore. He sounded like someone who genuinely believed he belonged here. Like someone who had convinced himself that timing, confidence, and momentum could bend reality. Meanwhile, Anthony Joshua said less, and that silence said everything. Fighters started weighing in. Heavyweights, cruiserweights, MMA guys, retired legends. The consensus was brutal. They respected Jake's courage, but they kept repeating the same thing. There are levels to this. And yet, despite all that, the fight still felt unpredictable. Not because people thought Jake would dominate, but because boxing is chaos. One mistake, one exchange, one moment where the internet breaks reality. That's why the build-up worked. That's why this wasn't just another influencer bout. This was heavyweight boxing with influencer consequences. When the arena filled up, it didn't feel like a traditional fight night. It felt like a cultural event. Celebrities everywhere, cameras everywhere. The kind of crowd that isn't just there to watch boxing, they're there to witness something go viral in real time. And that's why this fight will be talked about forever. Not for the knockout alone, but for what it represented. Two eras colliding, two worlds clashing, and reality asserting itself. Whether you loved it or hated it, one thing is undeniable. You watched. Everyone watched. And boxing will never be the same again. So now I want to hear from you. Was this the ultimate influencer boxing moment? Did Jake earn respect despite the loss? And did Anthony Joshua just remind the world why heavyweight boxing is sacred? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this one isn't ending anytime soon.